wake me up to another good morning, time to go.
Are you ready to explore God's wild and wonderful world? Welcome to the Nat Theo podcast. I'm your host, Erin Lynham. I'm a certified master naturalist, Bible teacher, and author, and I am so excited to dive into God's written word, the Bible, and His created world with you. Hey listeners, I have a special shout out this week for Peyton, Sophia, and Evan. Your mom was at a conference that I presented at in November, and afterwards she contacted me to let me know how much you are enjoying Nat Theo. So Peyton, Sophia, and Evan, thank you for listening, and stay curious about God's wild and wonderful world. Have you ever had to do anything very, very slowly? Maybe you were working on a nature drawing and you had to work slowly to get all of the details just right. Or maybe you were working out a math problem in your homework or on a science experiment and you had to work slowly so you didn't miss any steps. Or maybe you were baking cupcakes or muffins and you had to work slowly to get all of the measurements and ingredients just right. The creature we are learning about today doesn't make nature drawings. In fact, it doesn't have hands at all. And it doesn't do math or perform experiments, and it definitely does not bake muffins and cupcakes. But what this creature does do, it does very slowly, because this creature is not going anywhere fast at all. It only moves around 6.5 inches every minute. So what is this very slow creature that we are learning about today? The banana slug. That's right, the banana slug. Here's our trail map.
Are you ready?
We are going to learn, where did the banana slug get its funny name? And are slugs bugs? We will discover why slugs are so slimy. And how does God turn our disadvantages into advantages? Before we hit the trail, I am excited to tell you about a way that you can print out your nature memories or create a homemade photo field guide to use while studying nature. We are partnering with Parabo Press Printers, and Nat Theo listeners can print a free set of 24-inch photo squares. What is a photo square? They are my favorite way to display fun nature memories throughout our home. We also use them to create homemade photo field guides to help us memorize the names of flowers, trees, insects, and other things in nature. Click the link in the show notes to see our homemade field guides and learn how to make them yourself. And you can use code NAT10, that's NAT10, to receive $10 off your order at parabopress.com. That means you only pay shipping for a set of 24-inch square prints. Again, use code NAT10 to receive $10 off at parabopress.com. All right, listeners, here is our trivia question. How many teeth does a banana slug have? The answer to this trivia question might surprise you, so be sure to stick around to the end to find out. And to hear our listener question segment, where we answer a nature question sent in by one of you listeners. So, where did the banana slug get its name? Banana slug might seem like a funny name for a creature. But have you ever noticed how many other creatures are named after foods? Can you think of any? I'll play music for a moment, and I want you to see if you can think of any other creatures that have a type of food in their name. Okay, did you think of any? Here are some other creatures that might make you a bit hungry when you hear their names. A fruit fly, a kiwi bird, a chocolate chip starfish, and I've seen those in aquariums before, and they are super cool looking, and they certainly remind me of a chocolate chip cookie, along with pineapple fish, a fried egg jellyfish, and a cauliflower jellyfish, lemon shark, honey badger, tomato frog, strawberry finch, which is a type of bird, coconut crab, which is a crab that can climb trees. We're going to have to do a whole episode on those for sure, along with a sea cucumber and a garlic bread sea cucumber and a lettuce sea slug. Now, these are the creatures' common names. In nature study, you might sometimes hear the same creature called by a few different types of names. This is because all creatures have common names and a scientific name. A scientific name is used around the world to help people know what a creature is. They are written in the Latin language, so it might be a bit hard for us to read or pronounce, unless, of course, you have studied Latin. The scientific name helps scientists around the world know when they are talking about or writing about the same species of creature. When we think about chocolate chip starfish, tomato frogs, and garlic bread sea cucumbers, those are common names. Common names are a lot like nicknames. They are often easier to remember than the scientific names. Many times, like in these creatures named after foods, the common name has something to do with what the creatures look like. However, common names are not the same across the world. So what you call a creature might be different than what someone else calls it in a different country, which makes it hard for scientists that are working together if they call the same creature by different names. This is why scientists often use the scientific name. Here is an example using today's creature. The banana slug is its common name. Its scientific name is Areolimax. Now, there are 5 different kinds of banana slugs, each with their own scientific name. If you are ever bored one day, maybe spend some time trying to memorize the 5 different scientific names of the different kinds of banana slugs. As you might have guessed, the banana slug is named, its common name, for how it looks, like a banana. Have you ever noticed, though, how some bananas look different than others? When you bring home a bunch of bananas from the store, they might be bright yellow. But what happens after a few days when they sit on the counter? They might turn a bit brown and spotty. In a similar way, banana slugs can look like bananas at different stages. So some banana slugs are bright yellow, while others are a brownish color, and some even have spots. And they are long slugs that kind of get fatter in the middle and pointier at the ends, kind of shaped like a banana. Okay, when we think about the common name, banana slug, we know, of course, what a banana is, but what exactly is a slug? Is a slug a bug? When I was a young girl, I always thought that slugs were bugs because they are small, and I often found them out in the garden or underneath logs where I usually found insects. But remember, things in nature are not always what they seem. This is why it's so important as naturalists or those studying God's wild and wonderful world that we look closely at the details and really understand what something is and what something isn't. And in the case of the banana slug and all slugs, they are not bugs at all. Slugs are mollusks. Have you ever heard that word, mollusk? Maybe you listened to lesson 46 when we learned all about mollusks. A mollusk is a type of animal. So banana slugs are not bugs or insects. They are a different kind of animal in the mollusk family. I love learning about mollusks, and one reason is because mollusks can be very different from one another. Here is an example. A tiny slug or snail that you might find in the garden is a mollusk. A giant 40-foot squid in the deep ocean is also a mollusk. Other mollusks include clams, octopus, oysters, and scallops. Here are a few things that are true of most mollusks. Mollusks are soft-bodied animals, so they are squishy and often slimy. Mollusks have an important organ or part of their body called a mantle. Mollusks have a big foot, which sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Their foot isn't exactly like our feet. Instead, it is a muscular part of their body that they use for moving around or grasping or holding things or even digging. Finally, most but not all mollusks have a hard shell. So think about a banana slug. If you are part of the Nat Theo Club, look at the photos that we included in the lesson guide, or ask permission and get help to look up photos of banana slugs online. We can see that a banana slug is indeed a soft-bodied animal. It's rather squishy. It does have a mantle organ, although it's hard to see on some slugs. It's kind of like a big hump or lump on the back of the slug right behind its head. It might not look like a slug has feet, but the banana slug has a mollusk's foot. That's actually the big, slippery thing beneath its body that helps it move around. Now, banana slugs and other slugs do not have shells, like many other mollusks do, but they are indeed a mollusk. Now, when we learn about mollusks, there are three main groups: cephalopods, gastropods, and bivalves. I wish we could deep dive into all three right now, but we need to focus on banana slugs. If you want to learn more about bivalves, check out lesson 46. And we will be doing an episode on octopuses, which are a type of cephalopod, in a couple of weeks. Banana slugs belong to the group of mollusks called gastropods. Gastropod means stomach foot. Now that's kind of funny, isn't it? But gastropods look like their stomach is their foot, like on a banana slug. Slugs and snails are gastropods. So the banana slug is not a bug. It is an animal that is a mollusk, and more specifically, it is a gastropod or stomach foot mollusk. And although many mollusks live in the ocean, banana slugs live on land. This means they are a terrestrial mollusk. Terrestrial can refer to land. A terrestrial mollusk is a mollusk that lives on land. Okay, now that we know where the banana slug gets its name and what exactly it is, let's look at something you might be curious about, and that is, why are slugs so slimy? If you have ever touched or held a slug, you might have noticed they can be a bit slimy. Maybe they even left a trail of slime on your hand. You can also see the trails of slime that they leave behind on a forest floor or maybe on a log they have been sliding across. My family loves visiting the Pacific Northwest, where there are many banana slugs. In fact, banana slugs only live on the west coast of the United States and Canada. We love exploring the forests of the Pacific Northwest, and when we do, we often find banana slugs or clues that they were there not long ago. Those clues are their slime trails. On a recent trip to Washington, I took a video of a banana slug that I found. You can watch that video in the Nat Theo Club lesson guide or at the link in our show notes. But why exactly are slugs so slimy? A slug's slime is actually mucus. Mucus is, well, it's a slimy substance made by the body to protect certain parts of the body. You might, of course, know that mucus is inside your nose, but mucus is also coating your eyes to help protect them. Mucus is also inside your lungs and throat, and in your stomach and intestines. Mucus helps us in many ways, and the same is true for banana slugs. Slimy mucus helps banana slugs in several ways. Let's look at some of them. Mucus helps them slide over rough things on the forest floor. That might be sticks, or pine needles, or pine cones, or tree bark, or thorns. They can easily slide over those because of the mucus on their bodies. This slimy mucus also helps a banana slug lower itself from a high place, like a tree branch. They can create a slime cord, which they use to lower themselves to the ground, kind of like a spider's anchor line. Some scientists also believe that slugs can keep track of each other through their slime trails, especially during mating season. They believe they can add pheromones, which is a type of chemical, to the slime, and that slugs can actually smell each other using the slime trails to know where other slugs are. Slime also helps slugs protect themselves from being eaten by predators. If a slug feels like it is in danger, it can create an extra thick layer of slime that its predators don't like or cannot eat. This slime can slow down predators that want to eat them. This is especially true of beetles that might want to eat a slug. The slime is also, well, as you might suspect, it's not tasty. So when the banana slug feels threatened and creates a thick layer of slime, the other animals like a salamander or a snake or a shrew or a bird does not find them very appetizing and is less likely to try to eat them. Finally, slugs have to stay very wet, and a layer of mucus on their bodies helps them to retain or hold in moisture so that they don't dry out. So, slimy mucus is very important for slugs. It's a creative design that God made to help slugs do what they need to do. When you think about a banana slug, one of the slowest creatures on earth, it might seem like they have a huge disadvantage. Do you know what a disadvantage is? A disadvantage is when there are unfavorable circumstances that make it hard to succeed or do well. Here are some examples of disadvantages that we might face. Maybe you train very hard to run a race, but then you hurt your ankle the day before. Now you still run the race, but you have a disadvantage, a condition keeping you from doing the best that you could. Or maybe you are playing basketball, but everyone else on the court is taller than you are. You might have a disadvantage that keeps you from scoring as many points. Or maybe you want to read a book, but you have dyslexia or another reading comprehension challenge. This circumstance might make it harder for you to enjoy a book. The banana slug might have a slight disadvantage by being slow. Think about a salamander wanting to eat a banana slug. The salamander certainly does not need to worry about the banana slug making a run for it and getting away. However, as we learned, God equipped the banana slug with the ability to make mucus, and that mucus helps protect it from predators or other creatures that want to eat it. Along with that, the banana slug often goes unnoticed by predators because it is so slow. They don't make quick movements, so predators might not notice them. In this way, the banana slug's disadvantage of being slow actually becomes an advantage. Do you know what an advantage means? An advantage means that conditions are favorable for success. In this case, the banana slug's slowness gives it an advantage because it can avoid being noticed by predators and can succeed in staying alive. In a similar way, God can often help turn our disadvantages into advantages. Let's look at an example I mentioned a moment ago, like trying to read with a disadvantage of dyslexia, which can make words and letters look funny or move, which can make reading hard. One of my children has dyslexia, and learning to read has been challenging for him. However, his dyslexia means that his brain works differently, and while it gives him a disadvantage in reading, it gives him a wonderful advantage in art. He is an incredible artist. Here's another example from my life. On episode 46, I shared about a disease I have called Addison's disease. I have had this disease for over 20 years. And while it gives me a disadvantage because part of my body does not work, It also gives me an advantage because this disease has taught me how to live a very restful life and to avoid stress. You see, listener, in this world that is broken by sin's curse, we will face many disadvantages or things in our lives that make it hard for us to succeed. But God can use those disadvantages and turn them into other advantages or things that we can do very well at. We might see our disadvantages as weaknesses, but listen to 2 Corinthians 12:9. But he, God, said to me, "My grace is enough for you. When you are weak, my power is made perfect in you." So I am very happy to brag about my weaknesses. Then Christ's power can live in me. What is something in your life that feels like a disadvantage? What is holding you back from succeeding in what you want to do? God can use that hard thing to make you stronger. Listen to Romans 5:3-5. We also have joy with our troubles because we know that these troubles produce patience, and patience produces character, and character produces hope. And this hope will never disappoint us because God has poured out His love to fill our hearts. He gave us His love through the Holy Spirit, whom God has given to us. So don't be discouraged by disadvantages. Instead, remember that God can use hard things to grow you in amazing ways and even give you other advantages in life. All right, listeners, it's time for our listener question segment. This listener question segment is brought to you by CTC Math. CTC Math helps my family better understand numbers, measurements, and math skills that then help us better understand God's creation. And what I love is that with their simple and effective lessons, we can master math skills while still having plenty of time to go outside and explore God's creation. We've been using CTC Math for almost a year now, and we absolutely love it. Try CTC Math for free at ctcmath.com. Here is our listener question.
Hi, my name is Ellie. I'm 8 years old. I live in Wisconsin, and I want to know, how do wood frogs survive the winter?
That is a great question, Ellie. And I am not surprised that you are curious how wood frogs survive in the winter since you live in Wisconsin. I grew up in Wisconsin and I lived there until I was 23 years old. And I am very familiar with how cold Wisconsin can be in the winter. Wood frogs can survive down to 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit. That is negative 17.5 degrees Celsius. This means they can survive when it is literally frozen outside, like way below freezing. But of course, God did not create the wood frogs just so they would freeze to death and go extinct. Instead, He designed the wood frog with an incredible ability to create something in its body that's like antifreeze. Do you know what antifreeze is? Antifreeze is a liquid that keeps water from freezing. Someone might put antifreeze in their car engine to keep it from freezing in the winter and breaking. The wood frog creates a type of antifreeze made from glucose, which is a type of sugar. This antifreeze that the wood frog creates keeps certain parts of its body from freezing. So ice can form around the outside of their cells and organs, but not the inside, and this allows them to stay alive. Now, it might not actually seem like the wood frog is alive, because when a wood frog freezes in the winter, its heart stops beating and it stops breathing. Its brain stops working and its eyes even turn white because the lenses on the eyes freeze. It is in a state of suspended animation. It's kind of like a pause from life. But because of this antifreeze, their cells and organs are protected. And come spring, when things warm up, The wood frog thaws from the inside out. Its heart begins beating again, and then its brain starts working, and finally, it can start moving again. Isn't that incredible? For more on this, be sure to listen to episode 54 on creatures that brave Arctic temperatures. Thanks for the great question, Ellie. Stay curious about God's wild and wonderful world. And listeners, if you have a question that you would like to have answered on Nat Theo, get permission and head over to erinlynham.com/ask or at the link in our show notes. And Nat Theo Club members, be sure to click over at the end of this lesson to the bonus video to learn about what banana slugs eat and, well, about some people that eat banana slugs. Do you remember our trivia question? How many teeth does a banana slug have? It might not seem like a banana slug would have many or even any teeth at all, but they can have up to 27,000 teeth. Banana slugs have something called radula in their mouth. It is similar to a tongue, and it has rows and rows of tiny microscopic teeth. In fact, most types of slugs have thousands of teeth. Although sharks are often thought of as the animals with the most teeth, slugs take first prize by far. Let's just say I would not want to be a dentist for slugs. Now it's your turn to explore. Go outside and look for ways that God has given creatures advantages or ways to succeed in doing what they need to do. Maybe you will find an ant carrying a very heavy load back to its anthill using its super strength, or a bird weaving together a nest with its beak, or maybe a rabbit using big, wide eyes to stay alert to predators, or even your pet cat using its whiskers to detect what is going on around it. God has given creatures so many amazing advantages to do what they need to do. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to share it with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review Nat Theo wherever you listen. Until next time, keep exploring God's wild and wonderful world.
I think as parents, we assume that kids are going to just know the right way to do things. You have to teach them first and then train them by teaching them to do it over and over again until they actually get it.
Imagine trying to teach your child how to tie his shoes without the practice principle. If the practice principle is vital for teaching such morally neutral task as tying shoes, how much more important is it for training children in Christ-like character?
I speak to parents all the time who come up to me and they see what's happening, but they don't know what to do. And I just want to stand up and say, you can do this. Here is a solution.
This is Yvette Hampton, host of the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. Join us each week for a new episode as we offer encouragement and resources on biblical discipleship from popular speakers and authors, as well as parents just like you and me. Find out more at schoolhouserocked.com or listen anywhere you find your favorite podcast.